In a world filled with noise and chaos, where the pace of life seems to accelerate with each passing day, there exists a quiet sanctuary, a place for contemplation, connection, and profound transformation.
Welcome to Awaecnian Odyssey, a journey of discovery into the depths of the human spirit. Here, amidst the hustle and bustle of modern life, we invite you to pause, to breathe, and to explore the timeless questions that unite us all.
From the wisdom of ancient traditions to the insights of modern thinkers, each episode of our series offers a glimpse into the rich tapestry of human experience. Through inspiring stories, thought-provoking conversations, and transformative insights, we embark on a quest for meaning, purpose, and authentic connection.
So join us on this extraordinary odyssey, a journey of self-discovery, compassion, and empowerment. Together, let us delve into the depths of our shared humanity as we awaken to the infinite possibilities that lie within.
This is Awaecnian Odyssey, exploring the depths of the human spirit with hosts Marie Ferguson and Felicia Lee.
Let the journey begin. Viewer discretion is advised. This program may contain explicit or triggering content. Parental guidance is suggested.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Odysseys. And my beautiful words are just, going with the flow today. There has been a number of things that have been popping up, that have been challenges that we've been facing and owning. So I'm going to own that I was going to do a different title just then, just out of habit. And let's just have a laugh about it. But beautiful Lee, my goodness, it's been a little while. We did a recording last week and that didn't come to fruition. So owning all of these parts of the glitches and the humanness, it's all part of this show, right?
Oh, it is, and right as you say that, I'm watching myself completely frozen, and it's like, oh, how do you come back from that? Like, you just need to hope that you've paused in a way that it's not completely ridiculous, because however long it has been frozen, that's sort of the meme that we get of our particular vibe at that time. So, and there I go again. Lovely, lovely, lovely.
Oh, it's interesting, beautiful people that are listening in. This part of Awaecnian Odyssey where it's like these enriching, truthful, raw stories of us sharing our lives. And we do hope to have some amazing guests on in future episodes as well. But it's like being able to notice these things, the awareness, have a laugh about it, and take those baby steps to do the next thing and keep showing up for yourself. And this has been a big theme, I think, for us the last couple of weeks. We've just had our beautiful global summit. There have been lots of beautiful connections and collaborations and local things coming into fruition and global projects starting. And the glitches along the way where we think we may be frozen or stuck in the mud. Sometimes there's still moments of learning in those moments as well. And this is, I suppose, why we love just being in flow, sharing what's alive for us, and knowing that what we share does get to resonate with those that are listening. And maybe there's that little gem of wisdom or perspective taking that just may land in your heart and go, oh, actually, I'm experiencing that too.
I love that so much. And even with the introduction at the beginning, it's like the hustle and bustle of the modern world. Like in this particular day and age where we are hard pressed for time and resources, like all of the continuous changes that are happening interfere with that flow of life. And because it's so fast paced, it can become really overwhelming. And this is something that I've noticed, especially like 5G coming in, all of a sudden all the tech goes crazy. And it's like, okay, well, if they're introducing something that's meant to be new and more impactful, why is there such a disruption to our service? Why is it not better? And I've noticed, as someone that moved into a house that had cable internet, and the cable internet actually performed better than the new and improved upgrades. And this is kind of like a theme that I've noticed that is actually happening within my life as well. It's like, okay, I'm getting these upgrades, I'm getting more of this information, but I feel more disrupted in my body. I feel more out of sync with what is actually happening in my real world. And this is that hustle and bustle that we're noticing, but we're taught through the things around us.
Yeah, I feel that too. And, if you can listen in, my voice is still coming back 100%. And these like disruptions while we're upgrading is interesting to navigate and feel through. And I feel like what I've been going through, the last couple of weeks is like a massive upgrade in my body, in my voice. And there's been a lot of, like, I suppose, with the disruptions and the misalignments and noticing what doesn't feel aligned, these lessons, like going into a school, going into different schools, because both Lee and I are still doing relief teaching. We're still building our business. We've got families to look after. There are still bills to pay. And these challenges of the 3D, of being here in this reality, this physical, while also
Mm.
knowing that there are other potentials and possibilities that are already unfolding while the body is upgrading, while you're dealing with this and the busyness of it all. It can be challenging. And yeah, like you were saying, even just with the Wi-Fi being glitchy and things like that, I feel like my body is going through glitchy moments and my voice like reflects it, and my mind does too. And
Mm.
just allowing that space to kind of sit with that and just to slow down. I think a lot of my messages, because I can go super fast and do all these things, but when I'm not 100%, I make so many more mistakes, and,
Mm.
stumbles across more things. If I, just had stopped and took a breath, take a moment, then I could do the next thing.
Take, take, take. Cut. Next cut. It's like a movie, isn't it? Next cut. Take two, take three, take four. We're not listening. We're not listening to our bodies. And, you know, part of what we love to do is to pull cards at at the beginning of whatever we do, because this is just a way for us to tap into our own inner guidance. And exactly what Marie was saying, that, that continuous take and giving, even though it was going somewhere else, that's that sacrifice of our body. It's like, how much can we give that is outside of what is naturally fulfilling for us before those take glitch moments, come in and literally take away the very thing that we need to progress. Like, to go into a school, you have to have a strong, clear voice. You have to be well within your core to be able to hold space for all of those little people. And yet, like, when we know that our foundation, our core is not, and this was one of those cards that came up as well, our core is not being fulfilled. Like, when our personal safety, and there I go again, glitch, glitch, glitch. I love that. I'll come back in magic. But when our core and that foundation is not secure, when we're continuously doing things that aren't making us feel stable within ourselves, those glitches start to happen within our body. Exactly like that. We're taken out of the situation. If you can't speak, you can't teach. And it's like, the thing that we've been talking about is this frustration of, why is it so hard for us to be in a environment that is our calling, to be around these young people, to be teachers and leaders and mentors, is in our human design. Yet we're stuck with this feeling of, it's not the right way. And I'm not the right way. Stop. Okay, you can take over now.
Yeah. And I was reflecting on this. I've been in a deep reflection, contemplation mode the last couple of weeks, actually. And, you know, knowing like my own gifts and like that my voice is a really big part of, what I'm here for on this earth and my expression. And it was like noticing with this class, I had these two tough classes this week in year 5 and year 2. And, it is in a school where the families do come from low socioeconomic backgrounds. These kids are coming in hungry. These kids don't
Mm.
even look like they've slept properly. Some of them still look disheveled, like their hair isn't done properly, or they've got mismatched socks. Um, Maybe they've worn the same uniform the last week. You know, I came in like at the start of the week going, yeah, I'm going to be inspirational. I'm going to do things my way and play and do the things like how I used to in settings where I had already established safety. I'd already established my, you know, routines and rituals for my classes. I
Mm.
know what good pedagogy and good practices and creating those relationships. And like these kids that I've been going to the school, relationships are building. And what I found is like they want to play these games, but the boundaries and this need to just always have something to say every single time, or even like
Mm.
the filtering part of not allowing themselves to just stop and listen to instructions so they can play the game is really draining, because when they're in it and they're playing it, oh, there's magic there. And I found with this
Yeah.
E5 class, there were like little pockets of like, oh, this is special right
Mhm.
here. And you could see it in them and you could feel it in them with this game that we're doing. But to get to that point had to take a lot of discipline. Someone else coming in
Mm.
to talk to them, me stopping a million times because they just kept talking over the top of me. And noticing that in that sacrifice that you said, Flea, like there was definitely been a sacrifice of my
Mm.
energy, but also like there's this other piece, like they need this. They definitely need this, but it's not this way. And that was really kind of hard for me to sit with. And yesterday I was in a year 2 class, and again, these are like 6, 7 year olds, 8 year olds. And
Mm.
oh my goodness, like just throwing things at each other and having to constantly remind them of like the rules and the structure which is already set in place, but me being somebody new to them, like there's this phenomena that happens with relief teachers or someone new.
Mm.
They want to just test all the boundaries because their safe person isn't there, and that rebuilding of trust, which I feel like this piece around trust, safety, your nervous system, resilience,
Mm.
speaking about these things personally yesterday, are all core foundations for the human development. And these kids don't have it. And so, again, there was a little
Mm.
gold moment of me like sharing a story called The Arrival from Sean Tan. And this school, is an Indigenous school. So it was like they've learnt about Sorry Day, reconciliation. There was this really beautiful conversation of like, what does it mean to reconcile? What does it mean to make amends, forgive, say sorry,
Mm.
move forward together? And these are like, I had a couple of year ones in there as well as the year twos. And there were some really beautiful moments of curiosity in this book that had animal characters that symbolized, the indigenous peoples, the native First Nations peoples of the land, and other little creatures coming in and taking over. And that was a really gold moment where they were so engaged in the story and the questioning, what's going to happen? What do you see here? And it felt
Mm.
like, did they not have more of these moments? Because then when I did the other things that the teacher had left behind, chaos ensued. And then my whole body just like drained. I couldn't yell at them. I just was sitting there doing maths, which is not my genius zone and not my passion. And I remember like trying to mark these things. The kids that had finished, I'm like, okay, you can have free time. And I forget that sometimes that means disaster. And they were up on chairs, drawing on the whiteboard. I'm sitting right next to them, trying to mark this thing because I'm concentrating. I have a headache. I'm like, is this right? And then the deputy walks in, and I was like, okay, guys, get off the chairs. And I had this moment of like, wow, this is a really shit teaching moment right now. And the kids were like insane. And I felt like I'd lost the plot, but I was concentrating so much on like marking these things that these kids had given me. And I was so drained. I was like, this is not how I want my day to be. And that was my journey, right?
And you have just in that one story highlighted so many of the issues that so many people are suffering with today. And it's not just schools. Like, we know schools, so it's easy to talk about this. But, those moments, okay, you see those little bits of gold. And for me, it's like, these kids love me. Like, I've gone to this same school only a couple of times, and it's usually like sometimes weeks in between, and it's only one day here and there. And I'm very rarely in the same classroom twice or for longer than an hour and a half to 2 hours. So, this scatteredness, like that's how the day starts. And for me, like I was a kid that went to so many different schools. So it's like that being that new kid every single moment is what it's like to be a relief teacher. It's like you're going in, you've got to find your principal, you've got to find the classroom, you've got to then try and remember like 30 names or something like that. And, that's the hardest bit. It's like you don't know them. Half the time your computerized roll doesn't work, so you've got to use the paper roll, which has no pictures. And there's always that one kid that's answering for everyone else, so it's like, oh yeah, they're here and they're here. It's like, yeah, but now I don't know who they are. Who is it? Please. Okay, it's that one. Please try and remember. But then this one here is my main focus because they're saying everything. So your brain is on this like overdrive from the very beginning. If you're unwell, and this goes for any teacher, like even if you know the kids, you don't know how they're going to behave that day. You don't know what they've had, like you said, what they've had for breakfast, whether or not they're tired, whether or not they have a need that isn't being met, even by their own classroom teacher. Like we say, that, here they are, they're missing their safety net. They're actually not missing their safety net. They're missing their familiar. So, when it comes to, I know what to expect from this person. And for a lot of kids, that is the safety. It's like, this is my routine. I know my routine. I know how my teacher's going to respond. I know how I need to behave with this person. In comes a new person. And it's like, oh, straight away, they're not following the routine because, they're trying to find where everything is, and then not completely organized, or, maybe you are organized and you come in and you're great, but you're different. And the thing I notice is the first thing is like, what's your name? What's your name? What's your name? And you've said your name 15 times, and then you sit down and it's like, oh, I forgot to say my name. I forgot to introduce myself to the other 15 kids. So, they don't even know, miss, 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 miss. And it's like, oh, okay, that's right. This is my name. And that's what they do. They come up to you and then they're like, I don't even know who you are. When you're in a disrupted classroom where you then, have to change halfway through the day, you're starting that all over again in the same day. And this is what a lot of relief work is like. It's like this continual disruption. So for us as an adult, if we're feeling this way, what are those little kids feeling? They've now got another new person in their classroom that's going to have a different set of rules. And I was having a joke yesterday because in one of the classrooms I went into, their code word for stop is holy moly. And I'm like, what? Holy moly? I'm not going to say that. That seems ridiculous. Like, I can't even say it with enough passion and power to get them to stop. So it was kind of interesting because I'm like, I don't even want to say that word. Like, that's not how I respond. I am a silent teacher, so I start my countdown and I just wait. But those strategies you have to learn on the spot. And that can be so draining as well. And the thing I'm getting at with all of this is coming back to that safety that we were talking about, that triangle. So to be safe, you have to have your emotional, your mental, and your physical needs taken care of. And when those needs are taken care of, then you feel safe. Now, one, the emotional, well, I don't know this person, I'm scared. I might be anxious. I might be this. I might be that. We're feeling it. So they're feeling it. So straight away, we're not safe going into that environment. Then you go into the base, like the physical. Is it really comfortable standing in front of kids, having them in your personal space, touching you all the time? It's like, who are you? And touch, touch, touch. That can be kind of overwhelming too. So for me, that feels out of sorts. But for them, they want that physical contact. They want, to be, especially the little ones, they want the cuddles. It's like, oh, I like you. And it's like, oh, I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to touch you. So I'm not emotionally, you know, able to be there for them fully. And then you go into the intellectual, and we all already know what a problem that is when it comes to schools, because the information isn't relevant for the kids. It is not an interest-based learning that they are familiar with from prep. And then they're going into schools where it just gets more and more difficult, more and more complex, and less connected to their actual life. How are we building safety in schools? We can't. And it's a big, big problem, because if we're feeling that triangle disconnected from the beginning, then that's going to be something that we absorb, and then we go home, we're frustrated, we're emotional, our bodies are literally physically exhausted, we're contaminated with germs from being touched 90% of the day. And, then we have to consider everybody else's emotions at home. Where is the stop and the comeback and that harmony within self?
Mm.
Mm.
And that harmony within self, it's not, for me, like when I think about the word harmony versus balance, people talk about work-life balance. I don't think that exists, but there's a harmonious state where maybe there is something here that has more priority and more things, and this down here is still a thing, but it's still in like equilibrium, still in a harmony. But maybe this thing at home or this thing in your emotional world has to have more priority, and this is just maybe, yeah, maybe not as focused. Maybe it feels more chaos here, and that's okay. And this piece about safety in our nervous system, knowing yourself, knowing what you are capable of, and even stretching what that looks like
Mm.
allows ourselves to really just go in and go, well, if I can get through this, then I can get through anything. And I think even though we're talking about teaching and these schools, it's like a metaphor for life. Like our whole existence
Mm.
on this planet is to learn and grow and evolve. And I figure any teacher that can rear in and
Mm.
manage 30 children from all different backgrounds, their energy, get their attention, engage them, teach, be in their space. Like these are skills that are sought after.
Mm.
And to be resilient in those environments and adaptable, I feel, perhaps in other spaces is not something that gets to be seen or felt a lot. And so I think,
Mm.
you know, from my opinion and my perspective, like there's a lot of parts I think that get underestimated on how
Mm.
versatile teachers are, how versatile, dealing with hardship, challenge, a whole heap of different people at once. Because then I think, in other fields, how do we apply this learning, this resilience, these skills of understanding all of these little people in your own business, all of these energy types in a summit, all of these things, and holding space for more and more people is a skill that I don't think gets taught. It's interesting in the education field and nursing. I was talking to a nurse the other day, that these caring spaces, these spaces of service to large groups, whether it's children or adults or people, to be of service, is such a highly sought after area. And when I was picking my daughter up from school, I saw a past student of mine and her mum, and um, she was teaching. And I was like, didn't you just graduate? Anyway, that was a while ago. She's like, no, I'm in my fourth year
Mm.
and I'm teaching. So, like here in Australia, and it might be in other places of the world, but graduates are being pulled into schools for nursing, for education, and I'm sure in other fields,
Mhm.
because people are getting burnt out. They are desperate to fill those places. This has been interesting for
Mm.
us to be in this relief position, to actually see the hardships, to see the disconnect, to see and feel
Mm.
these pieces that are broken in the systems that are here, and the fact that young people are being pulled in, like they're getting paid, which is beautiful. They're getting experience. They're getting that mentorship. I don't know, but they're getting thrown into schools. I'm not sure how well they're getting prepared for it, but I know many young people that have been popped in those positions. They don't last in that industry because of the overwhelm that Flea was talking about, because of managing all the things, all the paperwork on top, um, all the politics behind it, all of the safety, reporting systems behind kids that are at risk, because there's a whole array, with the school that I've just been in, residential care. They've got parental safety things around them because of court orders.
Mm.
They have There's a whole array of things
Mhm.
with young people for their care and their safety that others don't realize, And then I know both Flea and I have been blessed to be, in schools or in classrooms where we have had amazing young people that want to
Mm.
learn, that engage. We've seen it. We've felt what that side of things looks like, to be productive, to be engaged, because we fostered that in our spaces. So it's been interesting to notice and come back in, to look at the
Mm.
problems and to look at all the things and go, this is not working. I hear it from the teachers. The
Mm.
different schools I've been in, the same complaints. And I'm sure this is in other settings as well. When I've spoken to nurses, the same thing. Burnout. There's too many
Yep.
things. So many cases.
Construction, same thing.
Yeah. So what do we do?
It's happening everywhere. It really is. Like, I have not met a person in the last 2 years that hasn't been dissatisfied with where they've been, unless they're like us and they've just said, "Look, I need something different," and they're taking action. Not to say that this isn't very difficult, and it's had its challenges on top of that, but this idea that, if you continue to push yourself in positions that are going against what you know to be true inside of you. And you stated very nicely at the beginning, it's like, oh, I was teaching maths, which is not my genius zone. It's not my passion. If it's not your passion, you're going to be working every day of your life, and you're going to be working hard. Whereas when you're in your passion, you don't work hard because you love it. It's like you seek it. And that's the same with education with these kids. If they're allowed to seek their teacher that they actually feel connected to, like, I learn from this person, I feel safe with this person. This teacher here inspires me to want to come into class and to go further above what I even imagined possible. That is the beauty in teaching and learning. And can you imagine that in your workplaces? It's like, we in any job, there is a series of tasks that need to be completed. And rather than saying this is your job category, don't step outside your zone, actually ask your staff, what are you actually passionate about? What can you do within this company that's going to make you feel fulfilled? because the minute you come into work, that person's going to be on a high. It's like, yeah, I achieved my dreams. Yeah, I'm doing what I love. And then the next person gets to pick what they love to do.
Yeah.
And you let them be in their genius zones. And we all know that there's things that we don't like in every single task. Like, I love cleaning, but I hate laundry. So, I'm going to always want to leave that task to the end. Why? Because I haven't found a way to make it enjoyable. But it still obviously needs to be done because we want to wear nice clothes. So, and clean clothes. We don't want to stink. So, when we consider these things, like, we know in our jobs there's going to be elements that we don't like. But if we're doing 90% of what we love, then that other 10% of that chore isn't going to seem as bad
Yeah.
or as tedious, because it's, oh yeah, it's just that little thing I've got to do. And that little thing can then, gain traction with, actually, I like washing my clothes, because when I wash my clothes, they look nice and I can pick out what I want to wear for the day that makes me feel great. Or, that's just a silly example of housework, but it doesn't really matter what we're doing. If I was to look at the teaching world, like, most of what I love is the interactions with the kids. It's the stories, it's the getting to know them and getting to share how they can improve on things that they want to do. And in early childhood, this was easily obtained. And I love prep, and like the school that I'm at, the preppies, they all know me. It's like, oh, that's Miss K. Miss K's here. And oh, yeah, are you coming back into my room? I spent 1 week with them. And this is 5-year-olds that shouldn't remember my name. And, that's the only time I've spent with them. Yet they're the ones throughout the school that keep coming up. When are you coming back? Why? Why is it that I can go into that classroom and then not go into a year 4 or 5 classroom and have the same results? I do, to a degree, but it's not the same, because in that classroom, the expectations for learning are so far beyond their ability and their interest that you hit with a block straight away. I can't actually teach them the way they want to be taught, because the structure doesn't allow it. The content doesn't allow it. We're not actually engaging them in their interests and saying, okay, well, now we're going to learn about our words, because when we use our words, we get to actually do all these things. We get to create these things. We get to tell stories. Why is everything prescribed so concisely that it doesn't actually allow for the imagination to take over? And in prep, it's play-based learning. So some people used to tell me, oh, they're just playing with Barbies. They're not actually learning. Barbies are one of the best tools for learning, because it's interaction to start with. So the cognitive processes in the brain means I actually have to consider what the other person might be perceiving or what the other character might be perceiving. So they have to think in two mindsets. I've got two dolls here. They're not both me. How can I represent and how can I model? So that cognitive process of actually considering how people communicate, what their interests might be, what they might say and do in response to another. That is happening straight away with two dolls. And that happens all on their own, because, oh, I'm playing by myself. Oh, hey, how are you today? Blah, 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 blah. Happens instantly. You then take that doll and you need to change its clothes. Fine motor skills. Fine motor skills are necessary to be able to put pen to paper, to be able to activate certain parts of the brain that then allow for that cognitive process to go into higher order thinking. If you cannot use your fine motor digits for things like puzzles, for picking up tiny little pieces, that micro ability actually becomes a gross motor, not, not a disability, but it becomes a hindrance in your gross motor skills. I don't know I can't remember the actual term, but something as simple as not being able to use a puzzle in those first years can actually delay their gross motor development for things like handwriting. So kids that are getting tired because, they've been writing too long, my hands are sore, they don't have that fine motor function that comes from playing with puzzles
Yeah.
and little fine details like shoes and clothes. These abilities continue throughout our life. When we create something in art, you have to consider the process. So, okay, I've mixed the wrong colors. How can I fix it? How can I problem solve? It's not actually looking the way I want. How can I then add or subtract or, find other materials to make this work? your brain is continuously functioning at a higher level of thinking because you have to find the solution to what you're seeking. Because your heart is saying, I want to do this. The minute you say, okay, I need you to go and paint walls. Okay, I've done that. I can't stand it. As an artist, you think, I should like painting. No, because it's a up and down wall. There's no thinking. There's no thought process. It's boring. It's dull. And unless you're putting a mural on the wall, it's repetitive. So, these processes of intentional creation, which I like, it's God creation. When we're in creation of any sort, making anything, we are in that God source energy. We are in our glory and in our heart. And this is where we feel safe, and why most people can go and ground quite easily on their own, because it's like, oh, I'm just going to go color in. I'm just going to go sing a song or go for a walk or do these things that are active and physical in their creation, but they allow us to come back into ourselves. This is how we change the system. And we allow that intentional, okay, what is happening in this room? How can we create a learning scenario where there is functional learning happening at all levels within the same environments?
Hello, my name is Maitri. I'm a sound healer and an empowerment coach. I recently attended Awaken Summit, organized by beautiful Felicia Lee and Mary Ferguson. I truly recommend you to join the Awaken Summit, because Mary Ferguson and Felicia Lee, they're absolutely amazing ladies. They are here to change the world for the better, to elevate the frequency of this planet. And I truly align.
Testimonial. This is a testimonial for Marie Ferguson and Felicia Flea. I mean, they've done an outstanding job. You feel me? I'm talking modern day excellence, right? For those who are seeking a better life, for those who are seeking answers, for those who are seeking to have some depth as well as width, I believe you got more than what you bargained for. There was a range of speakers. What we're talking, like 49 different speakers. Yeah, we're talking 13 different countries, all bringing unique experiences, tailored experiences to healing, to energy. Speaking of energy, this journey goes. If you're listening to this, Marie, I said Marie and Felicia, well, that's crazy, guys. But yeah, I appreciate you and thank you. I was one of the guests who was speaking at the events. I was on the Architects of Destiny panel too. And yeah, it was an honor and a privilege.
Yeah.
So powerful.
And that creative life force energy does come back into that sense of passion that puts us into our alignment, into our heart. And it's been interesting to think about, well, if there are more people that understand what you've just shared there, Flea, about, well, what are people's skills? What are they gifted at? What are they good at? And you get to know, for us, it's the kids, or it's our speakers, or it's our authors. Get to know them, because then you can pull out the best parts of them. And this took me back to a conversation with my beautiful cousin the other day, where she said her and her partner, when they went to this hotel in Sydney, she's like, everywhere you went, Marie, everyone loved what they were doing. Like, it wasn't a 5-star hotel, but from the person opening the door to the person at the reception to the cleaner coming to say hello, giving us a chair, mentioning this. She's like, the service was impeccable. And she just raved about this particular hotel having really beautiful service, but that genuine, authentic connection from each staff member, from their experience, actually genuinely caring about, their time in the hotel and, their breakfast service, or waiting for their taxi, or opening the door. And it was these little minute details. And we spoke about, leadership. It's like, well, it sounds like this hotel, whoever is running it, has fostered and cultivated a sense of belonging for their staff members, like this real care for service. And the fact that you're like mentioning that you've never seen anything like it
Mm.
before or felt it, and, even complimenting the staff. She made a compliment to one of the staff members about something, and the cleaner guy heard it, and he walked past. He's like, "I'll take that compliment. I'm going to pass that on." She's like, "Yeah, you do that," and just owning, celebrating each other. And it
Mm.
was like, this was a hotel, that trickle fed what I could feel just from that conversation and their experience, that whoever was managing that team of people, all
Mm.
of their service people underneath them were resonating that energy. And my cousin's partner, she's a nurse as well. And she was like, how do you take that and put that into nursing? Take that and put that into schools. And it comes back to leadership. And it comes back
Yep.
to whoever is stepping forward to take charge, whether it's in a classroom or
Mm.
whether it's with a group of people or whether it's in your business, like that care, those
Mm.
values of passion. And I know from our summit, it's been really beautiful to receive from all of our speakers that sense of care. Like they were like, wow, you just really nurtured us. Like you were there, your communication was there. And feeling that resonance of how they received us in working with us
Mm.
was so beautiful. And I think it matters how you show up. It matters like when you're in alignment. So this was not sacrificing for us. This was like not this we loved doing it. Like I didn't mind
Mm.
having those midnight conversations with people from the other side of the world because I love that. I love people. I love children too, but the environment, the context is not in my alignment, but what we're creating, what we do with the academy,
Mm.
whether it's a summits, storytelling, public speaking, working with organizations and young people. We do it all. And it's got to be in our alignment and our passion. Like there are things that, for me, that's more aligned and Flea will come along for the ride. She's like, I like that, but that's not my thing. And I'm like, okay, cool. But you're going to come with me anyway.
Mhm.
Other things, Flea's like, I really love this. And it's like,
Still have to learn.
yeah, how do we support you in that? Like what And because you care for the people around you, whether it's your family, your business, this tribe, this ripple effect, there is
Mm.
there is something magical in that, and when you start to foster that sense of leadership, creativity, that inner spark, making sure that your voices are
Mm.
heard, I think is really powerful. And I know like when like we've been officially in Awakein for over a year now, officially. Like it's been beautiful. But when we first started, it was like ideas and doing this and we were taking the steps. Then as we then evolved, it's like, okay, Fleece rising up and going, actually I
Yeah.
want this, I want this. And me going, okay, how do we
Mm.
make that happen? Okay, how do we step into your greatness and my greatness, and even like including my husband's stuff and him now rising into his greatness, and this piece about alignment,
Mhm.
purification, shedding, aware, like all the pillars in our academy.
Mhm.
It's not just for schools or these programs. This is lifelong learning. This is evolutionary growth, and it comes back to self mastery.
Mm. And this is what we teach. This self mastery is exactly what you said right back there. It comes from the leadership. And I remember, like, my first job, I was running an ironing and cleaning company. I was 14 years old and I was working with a family group, and that was what we expended from that, my partner and I at the time. And like, I actually really enjoyed doing the domestic cleaning. It was mindful. You could just go through, like, there was no real pressure. It was such a comfort type job. It was like, oh, this is quite cool. I actually don't mind this. I could do it. But what I heard from society and from the outside world was, oh, you're a cleaner. Oh, you mustn't have any brains. You mustn't have any skills. Like it was a worthless job. And the pay matched. It was like, well, I actually do a fair bit. I actually make this building look good. Like without my skills, without my finer details, they'd be working in something that was dirty and disgusting. And then that's going to impact their clients. That's going to impact their service. Imagine if all of those staff then had to make time to clean up after themselves, like that's going to impact their day and their schedule and how much productive work they can do. And the more I thought about it, it's like, actually, the cleaner is the most valued person in a company because without the right environment, you don't have a nice environment to invite people into. So it starts there, and it should start from the top, respecting and knowing who that person is, and not allowing other staff members to diss them or to disrespect their work. Because there's nothing worse, and I see this in schools too, like the cleaners do so much. So much. They're there at 5 o'clock before everyone's there, picking up rubbish and all this sort of stuff. And it used to break my heart because you'd watch them. Like I'd be one of the first people in, and they were like, hey, have a great day. And, like trying to revere me as the teacher. And I'm like, no, no, no. Like what you do is fabulous. Like absolutely remarkable. And if it wasn't for them, I could imagine instantly how dirty a school would look and how much work they actually have to do, because you see it. You see it in the afternoons and after lunches, and it's like, oh, you kids are grots. Like this is your environment. Respect it. And imagine what those cleaners could do if they didn't have to just go around picking up everyone's rubbish. What they could actually do to the physical environment for cleanliness, for, actually giving out ideas of like how we can make the rooms more enjoyable, putting scents and flower and watering plants and like doing those type of things to make the environment better. And that's like, if you think of a cleaner wants to make the space enjoyable. They don't just want to clean up mess. Like that's not the joy. The joy is in the nice space. So it's really beautiful for those leaders to recognize, hang on a sec, the impact of my company starts at the bottom. And if we're not building that, if we're not getting to the stage where, we're recognizing all of the people in our companies, and I see this with my partner in construction, it's like, oh, people they don't even know what I can do. I can do all this, and yet they're giving it to this guy that's not experienced. And it's like, how many times does that happen where you have an ability and a skill that you know so well, and yet because it's not within your position or because you didn't get a graduate degree or it's not in your resume, it gets overlooked. The amount of times like I've been in schools teaching history and geography when I'm an arts teacher. You want to talk creation, you want to talk drama and production and bringing things together. That is me, like on all levels, from the writing to the scripting to the costume to the makeup to the set and the props and designs. I know it all. Yet I'm teaching geography. It's like, okay, those little lines mean that, it gets higher. Cool. I learned something new, but how am I meant to have that passion, that same desire, if I'm thrown into something I don't actually know how to do? And that happens from the top. If your principal doesn't know what you're capable in, if they're just trying to fill a space, then that's all they're going to get. They're going to get people that are going to get burnt out. They're going to have staff that want to leave because they want to seek better. You want to make your company thrive, you want to make millions of dollars, then you actually have to look after your staff. You actually have to know them by name and know when their families are needing extra support and provide that. Because that's what a community does, and that's how you build, and that's where that love comes from. And that's what I want to teach. I want to teach young people to step into their passion and to know that when they're creating companies, to respect every single element about it. We've had to do that building a company, respect and know that, oh, okay, if you don't pay attention to this, it crumbles. If you don't do these things, it doesn't succeed.
Yeah.
And we're just two people. But imagine what we could do with a family, with a network of people that are, wanting the same thing, seeking and desiring that company progress to great heights. Like, wow, I want to go and work there, or I want to go and, spend my free time in these places, whether it be a coffee shop or a business room. Like, you should feel welcomed.
Yeah.
Even a supermarket. I worked in retail. You have to be able to have that customer service without, oh, I'm just here to make a sale. Buy this,
Yeah.
this, and this, even though I don't actually agree that it looks good on you. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
They're not going to come back.
Yeah. And then you just become a robot, which is probably where part of the future is headed in those industries, you know. When I used to do work at the checkouts back in the day, you know, when I was studying, I think I had like 4 jobs at one point. This is the university days in my 20s, and it's like, you know, genuinely having conversations with people is gone now because you've got the automated checkouts.
Yep.
You have AI taking over. Like, we talk about these beautiful growth in technology and AI giving us more time back. Apparently, you know, it's meant to, and I think it will. But it's like, well, if this is happening and growing at the same time, we need to find ways to come back to these values that you were sharing, Flea, about tribe, connection, love, knowing people and knowing our family, knowing their needs, knowing our friends, knowing our colleagues, so that that time is valued, so that we get to notice their gifts and help each other grow in that. And I think this is an interesting world we're going and moving into when we're noticing these disconnects, when we're noticing the value in people. Like, I will always say, people are the most precious gift on earth. We are such a gift, such a blessing, because the skills, you know, when you can have faith and hope in another person, you know, to do it within ourselves is the first biggest step. But to trust people again, to have hope that when you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it, or you're going to have hope in the future that we are leaving for the children, that the children are going to, when they grow, continue as the bridge, continue to create and leave legacy and marks for the earth. You know, that comes back to honoring them, honoring the planet, honoring each other, and this hope back in people, this trust, this safety, these things that we're talking about at the beginning. You've got to cultivate that within yourself first, so we can then trust others again, have hope for the things and the structures that are in place. Also trust that in this reality that we have here, there are multiple realities and dimensions and guides and team and tribe that are working with us. And it's like trusting in the invisible, trusting in the magic, trusting in that God, source, energy, universe, goddess, wherever it's the same. I'm just going to say God, you know, trusting God with the plan. There is a divine plan, even in the chaos, even in the stretches, even in the darkness, because for you to know your light and for that to be clear in the darkness, my goodness, that light shines so brightly. But this is the duality of this existence, the polarities of the light and the shadow, of the good and the evil, of the positive and the negative, the yin and the yang, the feminine, the masculine. This is just how this existence is for us to know thyself and to keep coming back, to the heart, to come back to the body. And these challenges, these glitches, these hard things that we were talking about at the beginning, a lot of that needs to be rooted in the body, integrated, so that our vessel can be the container for the light, for all of the things that we get to then carry forth in hope, in faith, in trust, in creativity, in passion, in our alignment, in our light. Like, it has to be that way. Otherwise, you can't anchor it in to this reality of what all of this is. You know, and I know yesterday, Flea and I had cries together. You know, yesterday was a heavy day, but like, it has to. It has to, like, it has to be this way for us to.
You said something really beautiful before.
Yeah, please.
You said something
I know
really
you go.
beautiful before, and like there is no accidents. So you said so that we can trust in people again, and that again, that like that there is the big problem. Like we have gotten to a point now in society where we don't trust anyone, and when we're talking about that, we have to trust ourselves first. That's the little baby step, and this is where it is difficult because to change something about ourselves, and that was one of those cards that I put there before, to create these new beginnings where we can actually get back to that place, or we can get to that place where we're living in this harmony. We do have to trust ourselves, but it's taking those first steps, it's making the changes necessary, and this can be difficult. And I said this once to a year 7 class. We were talking about like the litter in the school and how we can do our bit. We're learning about livability in our environments and the improvements we can make. And a few of the kids are like, oh, it'd be better if the school looked nicer, if there wasn't so much rubbish and stuff like that. And it's like, well, why don't you pick it up? And it's like, oh, because people will make fun of me. And it's like, it only takes one other person to see what you're doing to make a movement, to make a start, to make a change. All you have to do is be brave enough to go, you know what? I don't like rubbish. I'm going to pick it up. Even if it's just around your area. And once you start picking it up and somebody makes fun of you, say, well, do you want to live in a, pigsty? Because I don't. I like the environment and I've got to stay here for the next 5 years. So I might as well make it look better. It's like our clean clothes at the beginning when we were talking about that, if we don't want to stink, we've got to do something about it. And it's that first step. It's like it takes that one person to be brave, that one person to just go, actually, no, I'm going to do this for me because I have to be here. And if I have to be in this environment that I don't particularly like, well, I'm going to make it look as nice as I possibly can. I'm going to do the things to make it as enjoyable as I possibly can. And, it's going to get to a point where, if you're sitting in a nice clean area and everything else is a mess, you're going to have a group of people that's like, I actually want to go sit over there. It looks nicer. And they come and join you, and then they pick up their mess, and then that expands, and that gets to be the state that we live in. We get to trust people again, but we have to trust ourselves to take that step. And even though we may be ridiculed, it may be hard, it may be difficult, it may be challenging and make us cry, we be that change. And that's exactly what we do in this show. Is we're bringing about the change. We're being the first 2 people to be the voice to go, no more, there are other ways. And we don't have to fight the system. We don't have to fight the patriarchy or any of that. We just have to join it. We join it and we create balance. Because when we come together, when we make those first steps of improvement within ourselves, we get to be the permission piece for other people. We get to show that this is the way, and that's how true leaders get great success. Is they demonstrate through integrity, through honesty, through authenticity. And most people don't really know who I am or what I stand for. Like Marie has a beautiful voice and she's well known in the community that we're in. But for me, it's like, well, I've struggled with that because it's like, well, who am I really? I'm just an honest person. I will say it like it is. I may trigger you. I may say something you don't agree with. Doesn't mean I think I'm right. I may say some things that you're like, oh, that hit home. And I really don't like that. And I will be the first person to say, let me support you in that. I don't want you to do it on your own. It is tough. I don't want for you to think that you're on your own because you're not. And it's 100% honesty and authenticity. And I've had to battle with that because the thing with being honest and authentic is people take advantage of it. I am willing to help. And I will put my hand up and I will do the things. And even like Marie said, I don't like it, but I'm still going to go and give it my best because I know what the next step is. I know that, my life and the only reason for me being here is to recreate that hope that's been lost. And a beautiful friend of ours said that, hope is actually a word meant to take us into sin. And it does because it's so far outside of our boundary because we have lost that trust and faith in ourselves. And I'm not one to like I will say God energy and stuff like that because of my current understanding, but that's not what I call this energy. That's not what I call the parts of ourselves. And it doesn't have to be my way or your way. It can be our way. Because when we come together in understanding that we're all the same and we all want the same thing, we just want to live in a world that's beautiful. I'm going to be the first person to say I'm willing to stand there. And there's my lion. I love my lion.
Yeah,
My lion always pops up.
yeah. I think these two cards that I
I'm
showed
going to
as
be
you were
my
sharing, like, you know, the piece around that like standing up, being like this piece about being the guardian, the valiant, and just rising into that through the hardships, through the things, and making a stand in those baby steps, in choosing your sacred self, and in trusting the process and the unveiling, and learning to have that hope and faith and trust in others. And it was this piece of honoring the sovereignty of
lion.
it, which I know has been a big theme, you know. And then that brings the grace and the courage and the poise that becomes, you know, like picking up the rubbish, being that one person where you're just like, I don't care, I'm going to do that,
Mhm.
you know. And I know we're almost up for time, but it reminded me of this young man I met who wanted to, you know, make a stand about the types of foods that was in his tuck shop, or in the foods that were
Mm,
in tuck shops all around, you know, looking at advertising. So he made a movement, got it in, like, and there's a part of the youth parliament here. They created their own movement, and now there is like a paper, or there is something, I can't even think of the words, but they
mm.
got on all buses in Queensland all of the fast food things removed. Like, will not be on a school bus, not be on
Yeah.
a public bus. And that was young people's voices making a stand. Like, this advertising, the fast food industry, all the junk food, it does influence, and their voices got heard.
Mm,
And that was one small change, and they got it in writing. They made a movement, and now it's like in the system, you know, like that's the power that we have when we make a stand. And, you know, I love that we get to just speak passionately about these things, and also speak into like the wisdom that comes from this, and just
mm,
allow that flow. And I know, like, that sovereignty piece, like, I'm just going to share these. Like, this is what also inspired our last summit. Those seekers that are seeking the question, seeking the justice, seeking the understanding, noticing the hardships of life that we've spoken about today.
mm,
How do we come back to honoring ourselves? And, you know, that's what inspired our last summit, Seeking Sovereign Souls, then trusting the process and creating these beautiful, like, oracle cards, you know, that we get to come to and be inspired by and
mm,
question. Like, I see this card, you know, the line that you said, that courage. Courage has been a big piece, again, that I've been sitting with, that you've been sitting with, taking the baby steps,
mm,
courageous to notice the shadows, notice the hardships, speak into it, show up for ourselves. And so, out of anything today, if you've listened to this and you've been inspired, you know, come and connect with us. Come and join our tribe. We're creating that family, we're creating that network, because we have a whole array
mm.
of opportunities to share wisdom through our summits. We've got a beautiful book that we're about to share more details on. What other amazing things, Flea, are we up to at Awakein?
Oh, we've got a retreat coming up in August as well. So that's a beautiful feminine retreat, coming back into the beauty and the womb work, reconnecting with the self, that warrioress, and just
Yeah,
reclaiming your yeah, that's exactly it, of course. And that's it, the beautiful co-host with us as well.
beautiful
So
collaboration.
we've
Yeah.
got three summits. So the first one in August, this is our turnkey transformation. This is your spiritual uplifting. This is learning all about those codes, that DNA, that wisdom, your human design, your ancestry, really like diving into the weird and wonderful that we get to experience. And we all do. We all have intuition. We all have instincts. We all have those moments where it's like, oh, that's a little bit of deja vu. Like we just know the guardians and the dragons and our spirit realm. We love this. And this talk, it's not to be in the woo woo. And I love the woo woo. I'm so sick of people that are like, no, not the woo woo. That's too much. We are the woo woo. We literally are atoms and neurons, held together magnetically by energy. Like we are not a solid being. And we know this. Like you take a telescope or a microscope and you go down, there's space within our cells. And to know this is scientific. So, we're going past the woo woo and we're actually merging all of that because it all does matter. Our history, all of these different techniques, these different styles of learning, they're all teaching us the same thing. It's just a different expression. So that summit there is the one to be part of. We've also got the beautiful Mum Summit and our youth one at the end of the year in November. So this is for youth that want to start changing the world, to be that first person to stand up and to say, I am here to change the world. I am here to lead the new young into their leadership and into their power and authenticity. I'm here to show them that there can be other ways.
Yeah. And if
Yeah.
you've stuck with us for this long, we have some beautiful offers on our website. If you want to be a part of this, if you're a parent, you're like, oh, I want to be on the Mum Summit, or I want my young person to have this opportunity, we're going to, share some beautiful offers. We dropped our prices, everybody. Come and connect, come and visit us at www.awakenacademy. The spelling is in the title, as Flea was pointing to, all one word.com.
It's just AE.
AE, yes, AECNIAN. And come and join us because we want to hear from you. And more and more of the world is opening up. And if you've stayed this long, come and check out our beautiful offers. Come and join our tribe. Come and chat with us if you're curious and how to connect. We so look forward to chatting with you. And this is the end. We've gone a little bit over time, but we look forward to our next episode and going in flow and sharing more things. And thank you so much for tuning in. Please pop in the comments what has landed with you and what you're inspired by, so we know to keep talking about these things, or let us know what you want more of as well, because we love to hear from you guys. And if this is stuff that you're loving, we'll keep going. If you want to dive more into other things, let us know and we can go into those details. Are there any other final comments or shares, Flea, before we end today?
Just remember you're important, and what you're thinking and feeling, there's somebody out there that thinks and feels the same way.
Beautiful. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.